Hello, friends. We are very interested to know which cities you are listening to us from, so quickly like and write in the comments where you are from. Also, share what shocking stories happened in your city or maybe even with you personally. Subscribe because the next story could be about your city or even your personal drama. Now let's dive into a new exciting story. The rain pelted the windows of the local color cafe, blurring the neon of Belltown. It was warm inside, smelling of fresh coffee and slightly burnt toast. Emma and Ava were sitting in the corner by the window. Their faces were almost identical, the same cheekbones, light brown hair in messy buns, the same gray-green eyes. But the difference was striking. Emma was wearing a gray cashmere sweater, her nails were neatly filed, and a ring glittered on her ring name. Ava is wearing a black cutout t-shirt with a denim jacket on top, and her nails have chipped red polish. There are two lattes on the table, Emma's with soy milk, Ava's with double espresso. Emma stared out the window where people were hiding under umbrellas. Her fingers nervously tore the napkin into shreds. Ava, lounging on a chair, was scrolling through Instagram, but no, and glanced at her sister. Emma, I can't take this anymore, Ava. Every day the same thing. In the morning his cocktail, in the evening Netflix and his snoring. I'm suffocating. Ava, sounds like a housewife's dream. What? David again spouted his boring programs about space. Emma, a week ago 3 hours about black holes. I almost passed out, and he even pouted when I suggested a comedy. Ava, poor Em, the suburbs have suffocated you. When was the last time you did something for yourself? Emma fell silent, looking at the pile of napkin scraps. She remembered college, nights in Tacoma, smoky bars where she and Ava danced until the morning, argued about life, laughed until their cheeks ached. Now her days were filled with Excel spreadsheets, electricity bills, and persuading David to go further than the mall. Emma, I don't know. Sometimes it feels like I'm disappearing, as if I was only his wife, his accountant, his shadow. Ava put her phone down. Her eyes flashed with a familiar fervor, the one that in childhood meant leprosy. She leaned forward, her voice lowered and became cunning. Ava, then let's shake you up. Do you remember school? You solved my algebra tests. I wrote your literature essays. Nobody burned. Emma, Miss Harris still thought I was a poet. And you grabbed a nickel for my trigonometry project. Ava, I still don't understand what a sine is. But we were fired, Em. We can repeat it. Emma frowned, her fingers hovering over the napkin. She understood what Ava was getting at. They've swapped places before. At school, it was harmless, covering for each other in class, sneaking out of a party while the other distracted the parents. In college, it was more risky. Ava went on dates instead of Emma when she had to cram. Emma took tests for Ava. But now, Emma was married, she had a house and business. And yet, the thought of substitution sparked something inside. Emma, seriously, change again? What if David notices? Ava, David? He is up to his ears in his construction projects and plans. I know you like the back of my hand. Your voice, your habits. I can handle it. Emma, what about me? Your life is a mess. Clubs, boys, parties. I'm out of the habit. Ava, that's why you need it. One night, Em, become me, go to the club, breathe life. And I will play your exemplary wife dinner, sofa, everything. Emma looked at her sister, her heart pounding. She remembered prom at 17, Ava dancing with her boyfriend while Emma drank beer with Ava's friends. Nobody noticed. They were like one whole, two sides of the same coin. But now the stakes were higher. David was not a school teacher, their marriage was not a game. Emma, so what? Just put on your clothes and pretend to be you. What if your friends reveal me? Ava, my friends will be too trashed to look. And Mark, he's not one to dig. Just be brave, Em. You could do it. Emma thought about Mark, the bartender Ava was hanging out with. Tall, with tattoos, always smiling, as if he knew something that others didn't. Emma saw him a couple of times when she picked Ava up from the bar. Pretending to be Ava around him was creepy and attractive. Emma, What if David suspects something? He is not always absent-minded. Ava, I know the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you drink your soy latte. I even know that you leave a spoon in the sink, which pisses him off. Trust me. Emma looked at her sister. She was tired of the gray days, of the to-do lists, of David talking more about work than about them. Maybe Ava was right. One night is not a crime. This was a chance to remember myself. Emma, okay, let's try it, but only one night. Ava, that's my sister. Tomorrow, club on Capitol Hill. I'll give you a jacket, jeans, everything you need, and I will take care of your cozy house. Emma, he loves it when I throw in Basil. Don't forget. Ava, Basil is in business. Well, Em, are you ready to become me? Emma nodded, her cheeks turning pink. She felt fear and excitement, like when she and Ava were kids and would steal cookies while her mom wasn't looking. The rain outside was falling harder, but the cafe was warm, and their secret, as always, kept them together. Emma, don't screw it up, Ava. This is my life. Ava, mine too, Em. We're in this together. They clinked their cups, and the latte overflowed. Emma looked at her sister, her reflection, and thought that maybe this was a way to feel like herself again, at least for one night. Neon lights flashed in rhythm with the bass, filling the dance floor of the Crocodile Club with red and blue flashes. The air was thick with the smells of sweat, perfume, and spilled beer. Emma, wearing Ava's skinny jeans and a low-cut black top, moved through the crowd. Her hair, usually pulled back into a neat bun, now fell loosely over her shoulders, slightly disheveled. The leather jacket Ava wore over it smelled of cigarettes and something sweet. Emma felt out of place, but the adrenaline pumped her blood faster. For the first time in years, she was not in her suburban home, not behind a laptop with spreadsheets, but here in the thick of life, where no one knew her as David's wife. She made her way to the bar, where Mark, Ava's lover, was deftly juggling bottles. His tattooed arms flashed under the light of the lamps, his smile sparkled like a sign. Emma found herself staring too long. He noticed her and waved as if they had seen each other yesterday. Mark, hey Ava, where have you been? Pouring something bright green into a shaker, thought you were off to Portland or something. Emma, trying to imitate Ava's casual tone, yes, that's it. I decided to go out and hang out. Her voice trembled, but the music drowned out the uncertainty. Mark nodded without looking closely and handed her a cocktail, something with lime and mint, cold, with a sharp aftertaste of gin. Emma took the glass, her fingers trembling slightly. She took a sip, wincing at the strength, but forced herself to smile. Mark, what, not your day? You look like you forgot how to drink. Emma, I just haven't been here for a long time. I'm brushing up on my skills. She took another sip, feeling the warmth spread through her chest. The crowd around was buzzing. Someone nearby was shouting over the DJ. Emma turned towards the dance floor to hide her awkwardness. She had to be Ava bold, free, someone who doesn't think about tomorrow. But every glance of Mark, every laugh of his made her heart clench. She flirted as best she could, imitating her sister. A slight tilt of her head, a half smile, a careless touch of her hair. Mark, well, come on, show me what you can do. The dance floor is waiting for its queen. Emma, the queen is taking a break. Give me a couple of minutes, okay? Mark shrugged, already distracted by another client. Emma exhaled, stepping back to the edge of the bar. She felt like an actress whose role was about to fail. But at the same time, here, under the neon, with a cocktail in her hand, she felt alive. For the first time in a long time. Same evening, Emma and David's suburban home, Green Lake. The kitchen smelled of tomato sauce and basil. Ava, wearing Emma's gray sweater and soft lounge pants, stood at the stove, stirring lasagna in the oven. Her hair was pulled back into a neat bun, like her sister's, and her movements were measured, almost mechanical. She tried to be Emma, calm, collected, a little tired, but inside she was bursting with mischief. Playing David's wife was like skydiving, risky, but damn fun. David was sitting at the kitchen island, scrolling through something on his tablet. His shirt was unbuttoned at the top button, his hair slightly disheveled after a day of work. He was building an apartment complex in South Lake Union, and his mind was busy with drawings and estimates. But the smell of lasagna made him look up. David, you're on a roll today, Em. Lasagna, what's the reason? Ava, I just wanted to surprise you. Tired of chicken and rice. She turned around, placing the bowl of salad on the table. Her movements were precise, but there was a sparkle in her eyes that Emma usually hid. David noticed this, but chalked it up to a good mood. David, well, I'm not complaining. Just don't tell me that now you'll give your best every day. Ava, don't dream. This is a one-time promotion. She pulled the lasagna out of the oven, the golden crust glistening deliciously. Ava knew Emma always added basil and didn't forget about it. She even put a bottle of red wine on the table, not what Emma usually chose, but David probably wouldn't have noticed the difference. Ava poured 2 glasses, trying not to overdo it with the playfulness. David, smells like a restaurant. Seriously, Em, what's gotten into you? Ava, maybe I just missed normal food. Or for you. She said this with a slight smile, but immediately bit her lip, afraid that she had gone too far. Emma was rarely so direct, but David just chuckled, reaching for his glass. David, if I knew that lasagna made you like this, I would order it every day. Ava, don't be impudent. Eat while it's hot. They sat down at the table, and Ava tried to keep herself within limits. Slouch a little like Emma, speak more quietly, and not wave her arms. But her nature came out. She joked a little more boldly than Emma, teasing David when he started talking about the new contractor. Ava, listen, if this contractor of yours screws up again, maybe I should come and sort it out myself. I can be scared. David, you, frightened, you even negotiate with the spiders so that they leave. Ava, maybe I'm hiding my talents. David shook his head, but his gaze lingered on her. Something was wrong, not exactly wrong, but different. Emma rarely joked so easily, rarely looked at him with such mischief. He brushed the thought aside, deciding that she was just in a good mood. Club the crocodile. Emma finished her cocktail, feeling dizzy with the gin. Mark came over again, wiping the counter with a rag. His smile was lazy, but his eyes skimmed over it tenaciously. Mark, well, Ava, are you ready to rock? Or will you hide at the bar all evening? Emma, give me one more and I'll think about it. He chuckled, mixed something with rum and pineapple, and handed it to her. Emma took the glass, trying not to let her fingers tremble. She knew that Ava would already be on the dance floor, laughing with her friends, flirting with Mark without looking back. But Emma couldn't turn her head off so easily. She was afraid that one of Ava's acquaintances would come up and ask a question that she wouldn't answer, or that Mark will notice that she's not Ava. Mark, listen, you're kind of quiet today. Is everything okay? Emma, yes, it was a long day. We need to speed up. Mark, understand. Well, if anything, I'm here. I can even dance if you convince me. Emma laughed, feeling the tension release a little. She took a sip, the sweet rum burning her throat. She may not be Ava, but she could pretend to be. She put down her glass and stepped towards the dance floor, forcing herself to move to the rhythm. The crowd closed in around her, and for a moment Emma forgot who she was. There were no bills, no David, no routine, only music and neon. House in Green Lake. Dinner was coming to an end. Ava cleared away the plates, trying to imitate Emma's neatness. David finished his wine, looking at her with curiosity. David, listen, Em, you really are different today. Not that I'm complaining, but did something happen? Ava, nothing like that. I just wanted a change. Tired of being predictable. David, smiling predictable. You, yes, you are like a puzzle every day. I never know what's in your head. Ava, maybe it's for the better. I keep you on your toes. She turned to the sink to hide her smile. Playing Emma was easier than she thought, but the risk was nerve-wracking. David was more attentive than she expected. One more joke, one more wrong gesture, and he might have become suspicious. But so far everything was going smoothly. David, Okay, puzzle, let's watch something. Just not a comedy where everyone is screaming. Ava, what if I choose? Will you trust? David, just without your rom-coms. Deal. Ava, deal. They moved into the living room and Ava turned on the TV, choosing something neutral, a nature documentary series. She settled down on the sofa, trying to sit like Emma, slightly hunched over, hands folded in her lap. But inside she was giggling. It was too easy. Club the crocodile. Emma had been dancing for about 20 minutes. Sweat was forming on her forehead. She felt eyes on her, not just Mark, but others in the crowd as well. It was intoxicating, but scary. She walked back to the bar, her hair sticking to her neck. Mark handed her a bottle of water. Mark, well, this looks more like Ava. I thought you'd be whining all evening. Emma, I wasn't whining. I'm just getting into it. Mark, pull in faster. The night is just beginning. Emma smiled, but cringed inside. She couldn't stay long. Another hour, maybe two, and we had to return. She took a sip of water, looking at Mark. He was too close, too familiar with Ava. Emma knew that her sister had slept with him, and the thought made her skin feel hot. She didn't mean to go that far, but flirting was part of the role. Emma, don't push, bartender. I decide when to start. Mark, oh, this is Ava. Okay, decide, but I'm holding rum for you. Emma nodded, stepping back. She felt the line between her and Ava blurring. A little more, and she might have forgotten who she was. But for now, she held on, balancing on the edge. House in Green Lake. Ava was curled up on the couch with a pillow under her head, just like Emma did. David looked at the screen, where frames of mountains and rivers were floating, but his gaze kept returning to her. David, you know, Em, today you really are somehow alive. Not that I'm not usually like this, but I don't know how to say it. Ava, maybe it's just a good day, or good wine. David, the wine is definitely good, but that's not the point. You seem to be having fun. Ava, what I can't? Maybe I've decided to be more than just your accountant. David, well, if so, I'm for it. Just warn me, otherwise I won't keep up with you. Ava smiled, hiding her gaze. She almost enjoyed it being Emma, but with her own spark. But somewhere deep inside, anxiety stirred. David looked too closely. She should have been more careful. Club the crocodile. Emma stood at the bar, finishing her water. The music changed to something slower, and the crowd thinned out. Mark came over again, wiping his hands on a towel. Mark, well, Ava, another round? Or are you already at the limit? Emma, I think I'm still in the game, but don't expect me to stay until closing. Mark, that's not like you. You're usually the last one to leave. Emma, sometimes I change the rules. He nodded, but something flashed in his gaze, not suspicion, but curiosity. Emma turned away, feeling the sweat running down her back. She had to leave soon, but part of her wanted to stay, to disappear into this night, into this alien life. Lake Washington High School, Kirkland. The class smelled of chalk and teenage sweat. Emma and Ava, 15 years old, sat at desks on opposite sides of the room. Their identical faces, blonde hair in braids, freckles on their cheeks made them indistinguishable to the teachers. Today was an algebra exam, and Emma, wearing a t-shirt with the school logo, was pretending to be Ava. Her pencil flew across the paper, solving equations with an ease that her sister did not have. Ava, wearing Emma's sweater, sat in the next classroom, writing out an essay on Wuthering Heights for her literature class in neat handwriting. Their plan was fine-tuned. Emma took math, Ava took words. Nobody noticed the change. Emma finished the test in 20 minutes, circled the name Ava Thompson, and walked out into the hallway where her sister was waiting. They collided at the lockers, their eyes sparkling with excitement. Ava adjusted the collar of her sweater and laughed in a whisper. Ava, well, genius, you saved my ass. Emma, only if you didn't fail my essay. I don't want a bad grade in literature. Ava, relax. I wrote 3 pages about Heathcliff's suffering. Miss Harris will be delighted. Emma, the main thing is not to overdo it. I'm not that poetic. Ava, and I'm not that smart. But we're a team, right? Emma nodded, her cheeks turning pink. They were different. Emma loved order, numbers, plans. Ava was chasing emotions, parties, attention. But their secret, their game of switching, bound them together more tightly than anything. They clinked cola bottles at their lockers and went into their classrooms, laughing at their genius. The rain was still hammering on the windows, but the cafe was warm and cozy. Emma and Ava were sitting at the same table they had been at a couple of days ago before they were switched. There were cappuccinos on the table. The foam had settled. Emma, in a gray sweater, looked refreshed, her eyes sparkling. Ava, in a leather jacket, lazily stirred her coffee with a spoon, but her gaze was tenacious and searching. Emma, at the club I was. Free, it's like being alive again. Ava, just don't get carried away, sister. This is my territory. I'm not going to live with your boring David, and I certainly wouldn't trade him for Mark. Emma, relax. I don't pretend to be your bartender. I just didn't think I'd miss it so much. Ava narrowed her eyes as she took a sip of her coffee. She knew that Emma missed life without boundaries, but this dreamy tone was alarming. Ava loved their game, but didn't want Emma to get too involved. Her world, the clubs, Mark, chaos, was not for her sister. Ava, seriously, Em. You had fun, cool, but don't get too carried away. David is yours, and Mark, he's not for family girls. Emma, I'm not a family girl. I'm tired of being just a wife. No one at the club looked at me as an accountant. It was a thrill. Emma, sometimes I forget what it's like to just be myself. Not someone's wife, not someone's shadow. Ava put down her spoon, her face softening. She knew that Emma was yearning for freedom, but she did not expect that the club would hook her so much. Ava remembered their school days as substitutes, how they laughed, deceiving everyone, how their secret made them invincible. But now the game was different. Emma was married and Ava didn't want her world to fall apart. Ava, look, I understand. But let's keep it simple. We had fun, you shook yourself up. Maybe that's enough? Emma, enough? It was you who got me involved. She said it would be like at school. Ava, we didn't hang out with my boyfriends at school, and your David wasn't on the horizon. Emma, I'm not going to fall in love with your Mark, if that's what you mean. Ava raised her eyebrows but remained silent. She saw how Emma perked up, how her cheeks turned pink when she talked about the club. It wasn't just fun. It was a thirst that Ava knew all too well, and it was scary. Ava, okay, Em, I don't mind if you liked it, but let's keep this under control. We don't want everything to go to hell, right? Emma, is it true? But I want it again. Not with Mark, not with your life. Just one more night where I'm not Emma doing my taxes. Ava sighed, leaning back in her chair. She wanted to say no, but she couldn't. Emma was her sister, her reflection. If she wanted this freedom, Ava couldn't refuse. But anxiety, thin as a thread, was already stirring in my chest. Ava, fine, one more night. But you play by my rules. No marks, no nonsense. Agreed? Emma, agreed. And don't forget about Basil when you visit us. Ava, yes, you're David and his Basil. Aren't you afraid that he'll like me too much? Emma, aren't you afraid that Mark will like me too much? They laughed, but the laughter was forced. Their secret, their game, still kept them together, but for the first time in years, Ava felt the lines between them begin to blur. Emma finished her coffee, looking out the window where the rain continued. She thought about the neon, about the music, about how her heart beat in the club. Ava looked at her sister, her smile slowly fading. Emma stood up, pulling on her coat. Ava remained seated, twirling the cup in her hands. Emma, tomorrow evening. Ava, tomorrow. But, be careful. This is not a school. Emma, I know, but I can handle it. As Yui walked in the rain, my steps were lighter than usual. Ava watched her leave, and the anxiety she was trying to drown out became more acute. Their play has always been their strength, but now, for the first time, Ava wondered if she might become their weakness. David's office occupied the sixth floor of a glass building in downtown Seattle, overlooking the cranes and construction sites of South Lake Union. Inside, there was the smell of coffee from the machine and fresh paper. The walls were covered with drawings of the future residential complex, an elite condominium with panoramic windows and green terraces. David, wearing a white shirt with rolled-up sleeves, stood at the table, bending over a tablet with a 3D model of the building. His hair was slightly disheveled, and there were shadows under his eyes, traces of late nights spent making calculations and arguing with contractors. Leela Bennett, a new interior designer, sat across from her, flipping through sketches. Short dark hair was tucked behind the ears, and a lanyard with a pass dangled around his neck. She had been working on the team for a week, but had already impressed David. Minimalism with warm accents, wood panels, and smart lighting systems. Today, she brought sketches for the lobby spacious, with marble floors and living plants. Leela, this is where you can add built-in heated benches. In winter, the residents will thank you. And the plants are ficus or monstera, they are not capricious. David, not bad. But benches are a plus for the budget. Investors are already grumbling about elevators. Leela, then we'll remove one chandelier. Those crystal behemoths you chose cost half the lobby's budget. David, okay, I convinced you. The benches remain, the chandelier is under review. Leela put the sketches down, looking at David. He looked exhausted, not just tired after a day of work, but somehow extinguished. She noticed this at the last meeting when he missed her question, staring out the window. Leela was observant, and her instincts rarely failed. Something was wrong with him. Leela, listen, are you okay? You look like you haven't slept in a week. David, slept. Just. A lot of things. Contractors, deadlines, investors. You know it yourself. Leela, I know. But it's like you're not here. Something at home. David put the tablet down, rubbing his temples. He didn't like to bring personal things to work, but Leela spoke so softly, without pressure, that he wanted to answer. They went out for lunch at the cafe on the ground floor, a small place with wooden tables and a menu on a slate board. We ordered sandwiches and coffee and sat by the window, where passers-by hurried under umbrellas. The rain, as always in Seattle, did not subside. Leela, well, so what? Contractors or something more serious? David, I don't know how to say it. Emma, she's been weird lately. Either cold, as if I was annoying her, then suddenly alive, joking, preparing lasagna. I don't understand what's wrong with her. Leela, is she often so unpredictable? David, lately. Maybe I'm just overworking, or she's tired of me. Leela nodded, taking a bite of her sandwich. She didn't know Emma, but David's words stuck. People don't change without a reason, especially in marriage. She remembered a friend who had become weird when she started an affair, but dismissed the thought. David seemed like a man who trusted his wife. Why? Leela, maybe she's stressed. Work, affairs, everything. David, she is an accountant and works from home. She says she likes it. But, I don't know. Lately, it seems like I don't know her. It's like she's different. Leela, another? You mean like it's not her? David, sounds stupid, right? It's just. She's like before, then suddenly she's like her sister Ava. She's always at parties, all so free. Emma is not like that. Or it wasn't. Leela remembered the name Ava. She didn't dig deeper, but her instinct told her that something was fishy here. Sisters, especially twins, could be a difficult topic. She changed her tone so as not to frighten David. Leela, well, maybe she's just trying something new, trying to shake himself up. It happens. David, maybe, but I'm not used to this. She's always been stable, and now it's ice, then fire. Leela, women, you know, are not always stable. Give her time. Or talk to her. David, talk? She'll say I'm making it up, or that I work too much. Leela, and you really work a lot. When was the last time you took a day off? David, I don't remember. Maybe last year, when we went to the lake. Leela, you see, maybe you both need to breathe. Go somewhere without drawings and taxes. David smiled, but the smile was tired. He finished his coffee, looking out the window. Leela was right, but he didn't know how to approach Emma. Her changes were confusing, and he could not understand whether it was his fault or whether something had changed in her. He shrugged the thoughts away, returning to his sandwich. David, okay, enough about my problems. What's up with your sketches? Convince me that these benches will not ruin the project. Leela, oh, I'm ready, but only if you promise not to fall asleep at the next meeting. David, agreed. But if I fall asleep, it's because of your monsters. Too soothing. They went back to work, but Leela couldn't get the conversation out of her head. David was a good guy, smart, hardworking, but clearly confused. She didn't know Emma, but her weirdness sounded like a signal. Leela decided to keep her ears open, not interfering, but watching. Her instincts were rarely wrong. After lunch, they returned to the office, where Leela laid out new sketches. David listened, but his thoughts kept returning to Emma. He remembered how last week she was preparing lasagna, joking, looking at him with some kind of spark. And then, a day later, she was cold again and brushed it off when he suggested going to the movies. It didn't look like her. Or did he just not know her as well as he thought? Leela. This is where texture can be emphasized wood with a rough finish to add a cozy feel. What do you think? David. Yes, it looks cool. Wood is good. Leela. Hey, you're not here again. Seriously, David, take a day off. I need you in action. David. Okay, I'm in. Wood, texture, I understood everything. Leela nodded, but noticed him rubbing his neck, a gesture that showed concern. She didn't press, but mentally noted that something was wrong in his life, and it wasn't just work. Emma, Ava, the swings are pieces of the puzzle that haven't been put together yet. Leela, okay, that's enough for today. But think about the day off. And, if anything happens, I'm here. I can listen. David, thank you, Leela. But I can handle it. Maybe. Leela, probably not the answer. But okay, I won't get into it. Bye. They went their separate ways. Ava's loft was on the 5th floor of an old brick building, with tall windows overlooking the lights of Capitol Hill. Inside, there was controlled chaos. The sofa was littered with pillows and magazines. The kitchen table was covered with empty beer bottles and a laptop with stickers. The walls were covered with concert posters and Polaroid photos. There was a smell of coffee, and something spicy. Ava was burning incense, despite the neighbors' complaints. She was sitting on the sofa in a stretched-out t-shirt and jeans, phone in hand. The face is tense, the lips are compressed. A message from Mark on WhatsApp glowed on the screen. You were on fire in your bed yesterday, baby. Shall we repeat? Ava reread the text 3 times, feeling the blood rush to her temples. Judging by the message, Emma went much further than Ava expected. She dialed her sister, her fingers trembling with anger. Ava, Emma, get your ass to me. Now. Emma, Ava, what's happened? I just got up. Ava, don't pretend. You know what? Come. Immediately. She hung up the call without allowing her sister to answer. Ava stood up and began pacing around the loft, trying to calm her anger. Emma slept with Mark. With her Mark. It wasn't just flirting, it wasn't just dancing under the neon. It was a betrayal. Their game, their substitutions, always had limits, but Emma crossed them. An hour later, the intercom rang. Ava opened the door and Emma walked in, wearing a gray coat and jeans, her hair pulled back into a low ponytail. The face is pale, the eyes dart guiltily. She put her bag on the floor, but did not sit down, as if expecting a blow. Ava, did you sleep with Mark? This is my boyfriend, Emma, and you are sitting with my husband. Ava, this has gone too far. We need to stop. Emma, Ava, I didn't mean to. It just happened. Ava, it just happened. You slept with my boyfriend, Emma. How could this even just happen? Emma took a step back, her hands clenched into fists. She knew she was at fault, but Ava's anger sparked a response within her. She wasn't going to be the only one who got the blame. Emma, and you are sitting at my house with my husband. You cook lasagna for him, You joke with him. You pretend to be me. We're both to blame. Ava, it's not the same thing. David is your husband, M. You are married. And Mark is mine. You knew that he was mine, and you still went to him. Emma, I didn't climb. I was in the club, pretending to be you, just like you wanted. He thought I was you. I drank, he was there, and, I don't know Ava. I didn't plan to. Ava snorted, crossing her arms. She tried to understand how Emma, her careful, calculating sister, could screw up like that. Mark was not her love of her life. Their relationship was easy, without obligations, but he was part of her world, her freedom. Emma has invaded where she doesn't belong. Ava, oh, poor Emma, she got drunk and accidentally slept with my boyfriend. Do you even understand what this looks like? You used me, my name, my life, Emma, and you used mine. Do you think it was easy for me to understand how you flirted with David? The way he looks at you, thinking it's me? Have you ever thought about what it's like for me? Ava, it was your idea, M. You wanted to shake things up. You wanted clubs, freedom. I just gave it to you. But you crossed the line. Emma fell silent, looking at the floor. She felt shame, but also anger at Ava, at herself, at this whole stupid game. The night with Mark had been a mistake, but she couldn't explain why it had happened. Maybe it was the gin, the music, the neon. Maybe it was herself, yearning to be someone else, even for an hour. Emma, I didn't mean to offend you, Ava. I'm lost. In the club, with Mark. I wasn't me. I was you. Ava, but you're not me, and you never will. You are Emma. You have a house, a husband, a life, and I have Mark, clubs, my freedom, and you stole it. Emma, stole it. You pushed me there yourself. You wanted me to be you, so that I could feel your world. And now that I've made a move, do you hate me? Ava, I don't hate you. I'm angry because you broke our rules. We swapped places, but did not touch what belonged to the other. Mark is mine, Emma, not yours. Emma sank onto the sofa, covering her face with her hands. Anger gave way to fatigue. Ava was right, she broke their unspoken agreement. But Ava wasn't innocent either. Their game, their substitutions were always on the edge, and both knew it. Emma, I don't know how to fix this. I can't undo what I did. Ava, you can stop pretending to be me. This has gone too far. We need to stop. Emma, stop. Just like that. What should I do? Should I go back to my tables, to David, who doesn't even notice that I'm sad? Do you even understand what it's like? Ava, do you understand what it's like for me? I gave you a piece of my life, and you took more than I offered. Emma stood up, her eyes shining with tears, but her voice was firm. Emma, I didn't mean it, Ava, but I'm not going to apologize forever. You are to blame for this too. We both started playing. Ava, maybe so. But that doesn't mean I have to be happy when you sleep with my boyfriend. They fell silent, standing opposite each other. The loft seemed too cramped, the air heavy. Ava looked at her sister, her copy, and for the first time in years, she felt like a wall had grown between them. Emma wiped her eyes and picked up her bag. Emma, I'll leave. But we're not done, Ava. We are sisters. We'll figure it out. Ava, let's figure it out. But not today, and stay away from Mark. Emma nodded, without looking at her sister, and left. The door slammed, echoing throughout the loft. Ava sank onto the couch, looking at her phone. The message from Mark was still glowing on the screen. She deleted it, but the anger did not go away. Their game, their secret, has always been their strength. But now he became a crack that could break them. David and Emma's house stood on a quiet street in Green Lake, surrounded by neat lawns and blooming rhododendrons. The inside smelled of freshly brewed coffee and warm wood. The cedar floors gleamed from a recent cleaning. The living room was cozy, a gray upholstered sofa piled high with pillows, a coffee table with architecture magazines scattered about it, a couple of watercolors of Puget Sound on the wall. David sat at the kitchen island, flipping through a clipboard containing blueprints for his project, an apartment complex in South Lake Union. His shirt was unbuttoned at the top button, and his hair was a little disheveled after a long day. Emma, or who he thought was Emma, was busy at the stove, preparing dinner. She was wearing a gray sweater and jeans, her hair pulled back into a low bun. But something was wrong about her. David noticed this a couple of weeks ago. She was either cold, brushing aside his questions, then she suddenly joked, cooked lasagna, and looked at him with an unusual spark. Today, he picked up a new signal, a subtle floral aroma, Swedish, with notes of jasmine. This was not her usual perfume, which smelled of sandalwood and vanilla. He knew this smell. It was Ava's scent. David, new perfume M. They smell like Ava. Emma, she borrowed the bottle. Like, the voice trembled, the fingers froze for a moment on the handle of the frying pan. David noticed this, but did not show it. He just nodded, sipping his coffee. He wasn't sure she was lying, but something about her answer too quick, too casual had stuck. Ava often came to their family dinners, her perfume filling the room like her loud laughter. Emma never took anything from her sister, except maybe a recipe or haircut advice. Perfume, it was strange. David, yes, nothing. Just not your style. Emma, I decided to try something new. You have to change sometimes. She turned to the stove and began cutting onions, her movements abrupt, as if she was in a hurry to get away from the conversation. David looked at her back, trying to understand what was bothering him. Not just perfume. There was something else. A couple of weeks ago, at a family dinner, Ava told a stupid joke about a penguin who ordered pizza. Everyone laughed, including Emma. But the day before, Emma herself told this anecdote, sitting with him on the sofa. David didn't think much of it at the time, but now it pops up in his memory, like a puzzle piece that won't fit into place. David, remember that joke about the penguin? Ava told him about it at dinner. Emma, oh yes, he was funny. David, you told it before. The day before dinner. Where did you get it from? Emma froze, the knife in her hand stopping. She turned, wiping her hands on a towel, and smiled, but the smile was forced. Emma, Ava probably sent it to me in a message. We chat often, you know. David, clear. It's just strange that you both told it as if for the first time. Emma, coincidence. She and I have similar tastes. She turned away, throwing the onion into the pan. The oil hissed, filling the kitchen with a pungent odor. David finished his coffee, but his gaze remained fixed on her. Coincidence? Maybe, but something in her behavior, too quick answers, too many excuses did not give peace. He was not paranoid, but his analytical mind, accustomed to analyzing drawings and finding errors in estimates, began to look for inconsistencies in his wife. Emma, how is your project going? Is Leela still trying to put her ficus trees in every room? David, yes, she is stubborn, but her ideas are good. Today, I suggested heated benches for the lobby. Emma, heated benches. What, now the residents will fry eggs on them? David, not excluded. But investors are already gritting their teeth over the budget. Emma laughed, and for a moment she looked like herself, the Emma he knew. But the laughter quickly died down, and she turned back to the stove. David looked at her, trying to understand what had changed. Her movements were a little sharper than usual, her voice a little louder. Or did he imagine it? He remembered how Leela noticed his fatigue at lunch and suggested he take the day off. Maybe she was right, and he was just processing it, seeing something that wasn't there. But an anecdote. Perfume. The lasagna Emma had cooked a couple of weeks ago with an enthusiasm he hadn't seen in years, and her coldness the next day when she brushed off his attempt to hug her. It didn't work out. David decided not to push for now. He was not one to make accusations. He will observe, collect facts, just as he collected data for the project. If something is wrong, he will find it. David, listen, maybe we can go to the movies this weekend. We haven't been out for a long time. Emma, sounds good. But I have a client on Saturday, so I need to prepare a report. Maybe on Sunday. David, okay, Sunday. The answer was ordinary, but something in the tone, a slight haste again, struck a chord. Emma rarely worked on weekends. Her accounting work was routine, with a strict schedule. Or was she hiding something? David pushed the thought away, but it had already taken root. He stood up, putting the tablet away. David, I'll go take a shower. Call me when dinner is ready. Emma, soon. 10 minutes. She glanced over her shoulder and their eyes met. For a moment, it seemed to David that she was looking not at him, but through him. He walked out of the kitchen, his steps heavy. In the bathroom, with the sound of the water running, he replayed in his head everything he had noticed over the past weeks. Ava is at a family dinner, laughing at a joke she already heard from Emma. Her perfume, which Emma now wore. Her jokes sounded like Ava's. It could have been nothing, but it could have been everything. Later, evening. Dinner passed quietly. Emma served the pasta with chicken, adding basil as he liked it. They ate, discussing little things, David's project, her client, the weather. But David couldn't shake the feeling that he was sitting with someone who was playing a role. Her smiles were correct, but not warm. Her words are familiar, but not sincere. After dinner, she cleared away the plates, and he turned on the TV, choosing the news to drown out his thoughts. Emma, would you like some coffee? I'll brew it. David, no, thanks. It's already late. Emma, as you say, I'll have some tea then. She returned with a mug and sat down on the sofa with her legs crossed. David looked at her, trying to understand what was bothering him. The pose was ordinary, but something about the way she held the mug with both hands, closer to her face, reminded him of Ava. He saw Ava sitting the same way at their last dinner, sipping wine. Emma always put her mug on the table. She didn't like to hold it for long. Or was it his imagination, too? David, have you been chatting with Ava lately? How is she doing? Emma, oh, okay. She, as always, hangs out, writes her articles. I called a couple of days ago. David, say hi to her. Long time no see. Emma, certainly. She promised to drop by sometime. She turned to the TV, but her fingers tightened on the mug a little tighter. David noticed this, but remained silent. He didn't know what to look for, but he knew something was wrong. Suspicions were vague, like a shadow at the edge of vision. But they grew stronger with each one during the day. He decided to be more attentive, notice little things, and check. If Emma was hiding something, he would find out. Tom Keller's office was tucked away in a nondescript building in Pioneer Square, between a coffee shop and a vinyl store. The inside smelled of old paper and cheap cologne. The desk was littered with folders, there was a marked map of Seattle on the wall, and an old fan hummed in the corner. Tom, about 50 years old, with gray hair at the temples and a wrinkled shirt, was leafing through the photographs. The face is calm, the eyes are tired, he has seen too much to be surprised. David walked in, his shoulders tense, his coat wet from the rain. A colleague told him about Tom, who hired a detective to track down the partner who was stealing clients. Tom doesn't talk and gets things done, said a colleague. David hoped it was true. In recent weeks, his suspicions had been growing. Ava's perfume on Emma, a repeated joke, her swing's coldness giving way to sudden liveliness. He didn't want to believe that Emma was deceiving him, but he couldn't ignore the signals. He needed facts. Volume. Mr. Carter, have a seat. There are results. David, already? You said it would take a couple of weeks. Volume. Sometimes things work out faster. Your wife, or someone like her, has given me enough material. David sat down, his fingers gripping the armrests of his chair. Tom moved a folder with photographs and a report printed on thin paper. David opened the folder, his heart pounding. First photo, Emma, or a woman who looks like her at a club on Capitol Hill, wearing jeans and a leather jacket. She stood at the bar, next to a man tall, with tattoos, smiling. Mark, the bartender whom David saw picking Ava up from the bar. They laughed, her hand on his elbow. Time code, 2347, last Friday. David, is this Emma? Volume, looks like her. But there's something else. Next photo, the same woman, now dancing with Mark, their bodies close, her hair disheveled. Another one, they are leaving the club, his hand on her waist. David felt his throat tighten. He turned the page. New photo, another woman identical to Emma at their Green Lake home. She was sitting on the sofa with a glass of wine, opposite him, unsuspecting. Time code, same evening, 21:32. Ava. It was Ava pretending to be Emma. David. They switched places. Volume. Looks like it. I followed both. One was at the club, the other was at your home. They are the same, but the clothes and manners are different. The one in the club behaved more freely. The one at home tried to be. Your wife, I don't understand how you could not notice. David leafed through the report, the lines blurring before his eyes. Dates, places, time codes. Emma is at the club with Mark, Ava is at his house, cooking dinner and joking with him. The photos didn't lie. His wife cheated on him, and her sister covered for her, pretending to be Emma. He closed the folder, his fingers trembling. David, how many times? Was this? Volume. Recorded 3 cases in a week. But judging by their confidence, this is not the first time. They know what they're doing. David, thank you, Tom. I'll sort it out. Volume, if you need more, let me know. And, I'm sorry it happened this way. David nodded, put the folder under his coat, and left. The rain lashed the asphalt, but he didn't notice. His world, which seemed stable, collapsed within 10 minutes. Emma, his Emma, slept with someone else, and Ava, her sister, was sitting in his house, eating his food, looking into his eyes, pretending. He was blind. Idiot. David returned to the office, not knowing where else to go. He couldn't be at home, Emma, or Ava, or God knows who was there. He sat down at the table. The folder lay in front of him, but he did not open it. Leela came in carrying sketches for the new floor. The smile faded when she saw his face pale, with dark circles under his eyes. Leela, David, what's wrong with you? It's like you saw a ghost. David, they changed, Leela. Emma is cheating, Ava is faking it. I was an idiot. Leela, wait. What do you mean, changed? Who's pretending? David pulled the photographs out of the folder and threw them on the table. Leela walked over and looked at the pictures. Emma and Mark at the club, Ava at David's house. Eyebrows rose, but she quickly pulled herself together, sitting down opposite. Leela, you're not an idiot. You deserve the truth. What's next? David, don't know. I hired a detective. I thought it was my imagination. And now this? They deceived me. Both. Leela, how much time? David, don't know. Weeks, months, maybe years. They're twins, Leela. Identical in everything, even in moles. Leela looked at the photographs, her fingers fiddling with the edge of the sketch. She didn't know Emma or Ava, but she saw David's pain acute, almost physical. I wanted to help, but didn't know how other than to listen. Leela, it's horrible, but it's not your fault. They deceived you, but you trusted them. It's their choice, not yours. David, trusted. What a fool I am. She's sleeping with this bartender, and I'm eating lasagna with her sister, thinking she's my wife. Leela, stop blaming yourself. You couldn't know. They played with you, but now you know. What are you going to do? David, don't know. Divorce. I can't think. This is too much. Leela, then don't think right now. Give yourself time. But you're not alone, David. I'm here if you need to talk. Or just sit. David looked at her, his gaze softening for the first time that day. Leela was almost a stranger. She had been on the team for a month, but her calmness and willingness to listen were like an anchor. He nodded, at a loss for words. Leela, would you like us to order coffee or something stronger? I know a bartender, but it seems like you're avoiding bartenders now. David, coffee is okay, but without jasmine. I hate this smell. Leela Kai nodded and stood up to place an order through the app. David looked at the photographs, feeling his anger give way to emptiness. Emma and Ava destroyed his trust, his marriage, his life. But Leela was right, he was not alone, and he had no intention of remaining a victim. He'll figure it out. But first I had to pick myself up piece by piece. Richard Mason's office was on 3rd Avenue, in a high-rise overlooking Elliott Bay. Dark wood walls, leather chairs, shelves with legal volumes, everything exuded money and confidence. Richard, about 60 years old, with a neat beard and a couple $1,000 suit, was leafing through papers. The glasses sparkled in the lamplight. David sat opposite him, wearing a shirt and jeans, a folder with a detective's report on his lap. The face was calm, but the eyes betrayed the storm anger, pain, determination. 3 days have passed since the visit to Tom. David lay awake, scrolling through the photos. Emma and Mark at the club, Ava at his house, them laughing behind his back. He could not return home without knowing who was waiting his wife or her sister. But he didn't want to be a victim. Richard, a lawyer, helped with contracts for his firm. Now David has come for something else to protect himself if it comes to divorce. Richard, the prenuptial agreement you and Emma signed in 2017 is clear. The infidelity clause is on your side. If you prove treason, she loses the rights to the house and half of her savings. David, there is evidence. Photos, detective report. Enough? Richard, more than. Courts in Washington will accept such evidence, especially with time codes and evidence. But there is a nuance. Joint assets house, accounts need to be protected in advance. If she challenges, the process will drag on. David, what to do? Richard, transfer business assets to a separate account. Your project in South Lake Union is your money, not a joint effort. Personal savings can also be partially isolated, but without violations. I'll prepare the documents. Are you sure you are headed for divorce? David, she sleeps with someone else and her sister pretends to be her in my house. I'm sure. Richard nodded without commenting. He saw hundreds of such stories, betrayals, broken marriages. David wasn't the first. The lawyer made a note on his notepad. Richard, I'll start decorating. Don't confront her directly yet. Emotions can complicate things. David, don't worry. There will be no scenes. Bye. Richard, smart. Keep me posted. Good luck, David. This is not an easy path. David stood up, shook the lawyer's hand, and left. The rain turned to drizzle, but he did not open his umbrella. My thoughts were busy with the plan. He didn't just want to get a divorce, he wanted to come out of it with dignity, protecting everything he had built. Emma and Ava were deceiving him, playing with his life. Now he will play by his own rules. Same day, David's office, South Lake Union. David returned to the office, where the glass walls reflected the gray sky. He sat down at his desk, opened his laptop, and began transferring business assets into a separate account, as Richard had advised. His construction firm was generating income, and a condominium project in South Lake Union promised to double it. He wasn't going to risk that because of Emma's betrayal. Fingers tapped on the keyboard, the movements were mechanical, but inside everything was seething. Leela came in with a folder of sketches. Her steps slowed when she noticed his face pale, with a hard line of lips. She knew about the photographs, about Emma and Ava's betrayal. Since then, David had become quieter, but his eyes burned with a cold determination that she had not seen before. Leela, this is a tough step. David, are you okay? David, they played with me. Now it's my turn. Leela put the sketches on the table, but did not leave. She sat down opposite her, crossing her arms. Dark hair fell to his shoulders. His gaze was soft but attentive. She did not come with empty consolations, but her presence was like a breath of air in a stuffy room. Leela, advocate. This is serious. David, the marriage contract is on my side. If she cheats, she loses her house, her savings. I transfer assets so as not to risk my business. Leela, smart. But it's not just about money, right? How are you? David, don't know. I'm angry. Hurts. I want them to feel the same way I do. But most of all, I want this to end. Leela nodded, her fingers tapping on the table. She saw how David changed over the days from shock to cold determination. He wasn't broken, but he was wounded, and that made him vulnerable. She wanted to support, but did not know where the line was. Leela, you do what you need to do, but don't let it eat you up. You are stronger than their deception. David, stronger. I didn't notice my wife sleeping with someone else and her sister eating my dinner. Doesn't look like strength. Leela, you noticed. Later than I wanted, but I noticed. And now you take control. This is strength. David looked at her, his gaze softening. Leela was straightforward, but not rude. Her words were not empty, she believed in them. He felt something warm, almost forgotten the feeling that someone was on his side. David, thank you, Leela. I don't know how you tolerate my complaints. Leela, these are not complaints. This is life. And I don't tolerate it, I listen. There is a difference. David, I will note. Listening is your superpower. Leela, not only, I also know how to choose coffee. Do you want me to order it? Or are you now on a diet of anger and caffeine? David, coffee sounds okay, but without sugar. Too sweet for my mood. Leela laughed and pulled out her phone to order through the app. David looked at her, feeling the tension release slightly. Leela wasn't a close friend yet, but her lightness made the day less difficult. He returned to the laptop, continuing to transfer assets. Emma and Ava thought they could play with him. They were wrong. He will protect his future, step by step. Later, evening. David stayed in the office late, checking accounts and signing documents from Richard. Leela left, leaving a note. Don't sit until midnight. Coffee tomorrow, me. He smiled and put the note in his pocket. Emma or Ava was waiting at home, and he wasn't ready to look her in the eyes. Not yet. He knew that soon he would have to act, talk, demand answers, file for divorce. But while he was gathering strength, he was building a plan, just as he was building projects. Accurate, error-free. The Canley's restaurant glowed with the soft light of chandeliers reflected in the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound. The tables were covered with white tablecloths, the waiters moved silently, and the aroma of truffle oil and fresh herbs hung in the air. David chose this place for a reason. Its reputation, elegance, and high price made it the ideal stage for his plan. He was sitting at a corner table with his back to the window, wearing the dark blue jacket he wore to important meetings. Two chairs across the street were empty, waiting for Emma and Ava. David checked his phone next to his glass of water. The recorder was turned on, disguised as a call on silent mode. He rubbed his palms, hiding his nervousness. After meeting with a lawyer and transferring assets, he was ready for the next step. Tom's photos, Leela's words, his anger, everything led to this moment. He invited Emma and Ava to dinner, hinting to Emma that he wanted to talk about marriage. Ave said it was a family get-together to connect. Both agreed, unaware of the trap. Emma walked in first, wearing a long-sleeved black dress, her hair in a neat bun. She looked tired, but smiled when she saw David. Ava appeared next, wearing a leather jacket over a red top, her gait confident, almost defiant. They sat down, the waiter handed over the menu and poured water. David looked at them, two identical women, feeling anger tightening his chest. One cheated on him, the other lied. Today he will find out how far their game has gone. David, glad you both came. We haven't gotten together for a long time. Emma, yes, nice. You said you wanted to talk. About us? Ava, I hope this isn't a lecture on family values. David, I'm not in the mood. David, no lectures. I just thought we should be more honest with each other, especially in marriage. Emma tensed, her fingers gripping the edge of the tablecloth. Ava raised an eyebrow as she took a sip of her water. The waiter brought appetizers, oysters, and goat cheese salad, but no one touched the food. David leaned closer, his voice even, but his eyes cold. David, Emma, you've become so cocky, like Ava. Emma, I want to be more alive, honey. Ava, she takes an example from me. David, example, like nights with Mark. Emma turned pale and her glass of water almost tipped over. Ava froze, but quickly recovered, her lips stretching into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Ava, Mark, my Mark. David, are you jealous of Emma and my bartender? David, not yours, Ava. The one Emma spends her nights with while you sit in my house pretending to be her. Silence covered the table. Emma stared at her plate, her fingers trembling. Ava leaned forward, her voice sharper. Ava, what are you talking about, David? This is some kind of nonsense. David, nonsense. Then explain why Emma is dancing with Mark in the club while you cook me lasagna. Or why are you telling jokes that I've already heard from her? Emma, David, that's not true. I don't. David, don't lie, Emma. I know. I have photographs, time codes, all. Ava snorted, leaning back in her chair, but her eyes were darting. She tried to maintain control, but David saw the cracks. Emma looked like she was ready to fall through the floor. The waiter approached, but David motioned him away. The restaurant was buzzing, but their table was an island of tension. Ava, photos. What, did you hire a spy? This is paranoia, David. David, call it caution. I trusted you both, and you made me a fool. Emma, David, I didn't mean to. This was a mistake. David, a mistake? Is sleeping with someone else a mistake? And you, Ava, are covering for her, pretending to be my wife, also a mistake? Ava, that's enough, David. You don't know what you're talking about. Emma and I are twins. We joked. It's not what you think. David, were you kidding? When you sat on my couch, drank my wine, laughed with me, knowing that Emma was with Mark? This is not a joke. This is betrayal. Emma covered her face with her hands, her shoulders trembling. Ava clenched her jaw, but didn't back down, her voice becoming lower, almost threatening. Ava, you know what, David? You're not a saint either. You are always at your construction site, always busy. Emma was sad, but you didn't see it. Don't blame her for wanting to live. David, I'm not a saint, but I didn't lie, didn't change, didn't play with other people's lives. You did it. Emma sobbed, but didn't answer. Ava looked at him. Her eyes were burning, but she was silent. David felt like the recorder was recording every word. I didn't know if this would be needed in court, but I wanted to be prepared. He leaned closer, his voice quieter but firmer. David, did you think I wouldn't notice? That you can change places, like in school, and I will remain blind? I know everything, and I'm not going to tolerate it. Emma, what are you going to do? The tension at the table at Canley's reached its breaking point. The chandeliers cast a soft light, but their corner tables seemed to be in shadow, cut off from the buzz of the restaurant. Emma sat clutching her napkin, her face pale, her eyes shining with tears. Ava straightened up, crossing her arms, her gaze sharp, but her fingers nervously fiddling with the edge of her sleeve. David, in a dark blue jacket, looked at them. His voice was calm, but everything was bubbling inside. The voice recorder on the phone lying next to the glass of water recorded every word. He just accused them of substitutions, mentioning Mark, photographs, time codes. Their lies were coming apart at the seams, and he was going to finish them off. David, you exchanged lives like dolls. I have everything written down. You're finished. Emma shuddered, and the napkin tore in her hands. Tears flowed. She covered her face. Her shoulders trembled. Ava jumped up, her chair creaking, drawing glances from the nearby tables. The guests whispered, the waiters turned away, pretending to be busy. Emma, David, I love you. Sorry. Ava, you don't dare break us. David, already broken. He pulled out his phone and opened a folder with photos from Tom. First, Emma in the club, pressed against Mark, his hand on her waist, her smile drunk, carefree. Second, Ava in their house, on the couch, with a glass of wine, opposite him, unsuspecting. Time codes, dates, places everything is clear, irrefutable. He turned the screen towards them, slowly scrolling through the pictures. David, it's you, Emma, with Mark. Friday, 2347, the Crocodile Club. And this is you, Ava, in my house, that same evening, 2132. You smile and drink my wine while your sister sleeps with someone else. Do you want more? Emma sobbed without looking up. The black dress crumpled, mascara ran down her cheeks. She tried to speak, but the words were drowned in sobs. Ava, standing, clenched her fists, her face red with rage. Ava, this doesn't prove anything. Photos, they can be faked. You don't know what happened, David. David, don't know. Here's a message from Mark. Reading from phone, you were fired, baby. Shall we repeat? Sent to you, Ava, but you weren't at the club that night. But there was Emma. Do you want me to show you a video? Tom has that too. Ava opened her mouth, but remained silent. Confidence collapsed like a house of cards. She sat down, the chair creaked, her hands trembled. Emma, covering her face, squeezed out. Emma, David, I didn't mean to. It was only once. David, just once. I've got 3 nights in a week, Emma. 3, and this is only what Tom managed to film. How long was it before I trusted you? Emma began to sob louder, her voice trembled, her words were torn. The guests at the neighboring tables stopped whispering, some stared. The waiter with a tray of wine froze to the side, not daring to approach. Ava leaned toward her sister and put her hand on her shoulder, but her eyes were fixed on David. Ava, are you satisfied? He brought her to tears and showed her his photos. What's next? Do you want to humiliate us in front of everyone? David, humiliate? You humiliated me. You sat in my house, ate my food, pretended to be my wife, while Emma slept with your bartender. It's not me who is humiliating you. You made the choice. Ava, choice. Do you think it was easy for her? You were always missing, David. At your construction site, in your drawings. Emma was sad, but you didn't see. I just helped her. David, did you help? You lied to my face. She sat with me and joked while she cheated. This is no help, Ava. This is meanness. Emma raised her head, her face wet with tears, her voice trembling. Emma, I didn't mean for it to happen. I got confused, David. You were so far away, I didn't know how to reach you. David, reach out? You could talk to me. I could have left, but you chose to lie. And you, Ava, chose to be her accomplice. Ava stood up again, her jacket sliding off her shoulders. She pointed a finger at David, her voice breaking into a scream. Ava, do you think you're better than us? You didn't see her pain. I didn't see how it went out in your house, in your routine. I gave her the freedom that you didn't give. David, freedom. You gave her a reason to betray me, and she betrayed her, pretending to be her. Don't you dare shift the blame. The restaurant fell silent, the clinking of glasses became less frequent. The guests watched, the waiters froze, the manager in the corner whispered to someone, but did not interfere. David stood up, his voice shaking with anger, but he controlled himself. David, I have everything written down. Photos, messages, this conversation. Did you think I would remain your fool? You are wrong. I'm leaving, and this is not the end. He threw a few bills for dinner on the table, untouched by anyone, and headed towards the exit. Emma jumped up, her voice breaking. Emma, David, please. I will do everything to fix it. Don't go, David. And Cope, you ruined our marriage, and you, Ava, helped. Live with it. Ava shouted after him, her voice ringing with anger. Ava, you won't break us, David. You're not as cool as you think. The restaurant doors closed behind him, muffling her words. The rain lashed the sidewalk, but David didn't notice. My heart was pounding, anger mixed with relief. He did it, he laid out the truth, looked them in the eyes, showed them that their game was over. July 2022, courtroom, Seattle. The courtroom in downtown Seattle was cold, despite the summer. The high ceilings, wooden benches, and the smell of polished wood and old paper created a feeling of heaviness. The judge, a woman in her 50s with short gray hair, sat behind a massive desk, glasses glinting as she leafed through documents. David stood next to the lawyer, Richard Mason, in a dark suit, his face calm, but his fingers clutching the edge of a folder. Across the table, Emma sat with a last-minute lawyer. His black jacket is wrinkled, his hair is in a messy bun, his eyes are red from lack of sleep. Ava was not in the hall, she had no right to be present, but her shadow hovered over everything. David filed for divorce a week after the dinner at Canley's. The recording from the voice recorder, Tom's report with photographs and time codes, Mark's messages, everything was transferred to Richard. The 2017 prenuptial agreement was his shield. The infidelity clause stripped Emma of rights to the house and half of her savings. She tried to challenge it and hired a lawyer, but the evidence was ironclad. The judge made her decision today. Judge, based on the evidence, photographs, recordings, third-party testimony, the court finds a violation of the fidelity clause on the part of Mrs. Carter. According to the prenuptial agreement, she forfeits rights to joint property, including a house in the Green Lake area and half of her savings. Mr. Carter, your assets, including your business, remain intact. Emma sat motionless. The lawyer whispered something, but she did not react. David looked straight ahead, feeling empty. He won, but the victory was bitter. The house, money, business, everything remained with him, but marriage, trust, years with Emma turned into ashes. The judge continued, her voice sounding formal. Judge, the divorce is finalized. The documents will be ready in a week. The parties may leave the room. David nodded to Richard, who collected the papers. Emma stood up, her movements mechanical. She glanced at David, full of pain, guilt, anger, despair. He didn't answer, turned and walked out. The rain drummed on the asphalt outside the court windows, but he did not open his umbrella. It was necessary to move forward, but every step seemed difficult. Ava's loft was as chaotic as ever. The couch was piled high with clothes, empty coffee cups, and a laptop were on the table, and the walls were covered with posters. But the air was thick with tension. Emma sat on the sofa, wearing jeans and an old t-shirt, a suitcase at her feet. She moved in with Ava the morning after David changed the locks on the Green Lake house. The lawyer warned that it was useless to challenge the evidence and the contract were against her. Emma was left with nothing but a few boxes of clothes and a bill with a couple $1,000s. Ava stood by the window, arms crossed, wearing a leather jacket despite the heat. The look is cold, almost alien. After dinner at Canley's, their relationship broke down. Emma blamed Ava for the substitutions, for dragging her into the game. Ava blamed Emma for being careless, for ruining their secret. Now that Emma had lost everything, they shared the loft and the rage. Emma, you pulled me in. It's your fault. Ava, you wanted adventure. Don't blame it on me. Emma, my fault? You came up with these substitutions. She pushed me into the club to see Mark. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have lost everything. Ava, oh, of course I made you sleep with him. You climbed it yourself, Emma. I didn't hold your hand when you got drunk and forgot you were married. Emma jumped up, her face flushed, her hands clenched into fists. She stepped towards Ava, her voice breaking into a scream. Emma, you gave me your life. She said that it would be like at school, that no one would notice. And now I am without a home, without a husband, without anything. Do you even understand what you've done? Ava, do you understand what you have done? You slept with my boyfriend, Emma. You ruined our secret, our game. I lost Mark. I lost my trust because you couldn't control yourself. Emma, trust? You pretended to be me, sat with David, flirted with him. Do you think this is normal? Have you ever thought about what it was like for me? Ava, I was thinking about you. You were sad, dying out in your suburb, at your tables. I gave you a chance, Emma, and you blew it. Emma stepped back, her eyes filling with tears. She sank onto the sofa, covering her face with her hands. Anger gave way to despair. Ava was right, she wanted freedom, she wanted to feel alive. But she had gone too far, and now she was paying the price. Ava looked at her sister, her face softened, but her voice remained cold. Ava, I didn't want it to happen like that. But you made a choice, and I won't be your punching bag. Emma, choice? I had no choice. You pushed me, Ava. You're always like this, you pull me along, and then give up. Ava, and you are always like this, careful until you decide to jump. And then everything falls apart. We're both to blame, Em, but I won't pay for your mistakes. Emma looked up, tears streaming down her cheeks, but she didn't answer. Ava turned to the window, looking out at the lights of Capitol Hill. The loft was too small for them. Anger poisoned the air. They were sisters, twins, two sides of the same coin, but their once unbreakable bond had become cracked. Emma lost her home, her marriage, her stability. Ava lost Mark, her freedom, their game. They were together, but they never felt so alien. Emma, what should we do now? Ava, live, as we can. But don't expect me to be your savior. Emma nodded, wiping away her tears. She stood up, grabbed her suitcase, and went to the corner of the loft, where Ava had allocated a cot. Ava remained at the window, her silhouette dark against the lights. Their game was over, but the cost was higher than they could have imagined. David's office on the sixth floor of a glass building in South Lake Union was buzzing with activity. The drawings on the walls gave way to photographs of the finished condominium, an elegant complex with green terraces and panoramic windows. The project, which he had been working on for years, was completed, attracting investors from Seattle and even San Francisco. On the table were contracts signed for millions. Next to it was a cup of cold coffee and a laptop with an open letter from a new client. David, with his shirt sleeves rolled up, stood at the window, looking out at the cranes that were already building the next project. The face, which a month ago had been pale with pain, was now calm, with a slight shadow of a smile. Leela Bennett walked in carrying a folder of designs for a new project, an office building in Belltown. His dark hair was pulled back into a messy bun, and his ID badge hung from his neck. She became not just a designer on the team, but also a partner. Her ideas for the condominium brought the project an award for environmental design. Their connection went beyond work. Evenings over wine, conversations about the future, her ability to listen without judgment, all this became an anchor for David after the divorce. They were in no hurry, but both knew that they were attracted to each other. Leela, you're smiling again, David. David, thanks to you. You are my new start. Leela put the folder on the table and sat on the edge, crossing her arms. The smile is warm, but with a slight mockery, as if she knew that he would say something pretentious and was already preparing to tease him. Leela, new start? Slogan for your condominium. Shall we write on the billboards? David, don't tempt. Investors are already demanding more signage. But I'm serious. You, help me not to go crazy. Leela, I just bought coffee and listened. Nothing heroic. David, the coffee was so-so. But you know how to listen. Leela laughed, throwing back a lock of hair. She knew what David had gone through: Emma's betrayal, Ava's lies, the trial. But he didn't break. He threw himself into work, brought the project to triumph, and now his name was heard in business circles in Seattle. Leela saw how he changed, how pain gave way to determination, and now to something new like hope. Leela, okay, enough compliments. What's up with the new project? Belltown is waiting for your brilliant plan. David, I'm already watching. Wooden panels, glass partitions again for their eco-miracle. Leela, eco-miracle is for sale, David. People want offices where they can breathe, and I added a couple of ideas for the lobby: heated benches, like in the last project. David, heated benches? You're officially obsessed. Leela, obsessed with success, and your smile when the project takes off. They continued to discuss the sketches, but the conversation turned personal. In the evening, we went to a bar on Capitol Hill, not the Crocodile, where Mark had been, but a quiet place with live music. Over wine, they talked about plans. Leela wanted to open a design studio. David dreamed of a project outside of Seattle, maybe in Portland. Their friendship grew into something more, but they did not give it a name. There were enough evenings, laughter, and the feeling that life goes on. Emma sat at the desk in the reception area of a law firm on 2nd Avenue. The new job secretary was a step down from accountant, but there was no choice. After the trial, she was left without a home, without savings, and with debts for a lawyer. The uniform, a black skirt and white blouse, fit uncomfortably, and the chair creaked. She answered calls, typed letters, smiled at clients, but her eyes were empty. Every morning I woke up on the cot in Ava's loft, hearing my sister slam the door as she left. Their relationship was toxic. Rare conversations ended in shouting. Emma, yes, Mr. Wilson, I'll make an appointment for Tuesday. Okay, goodbye. She hung up, staring at the screen. At lunchtime, I checked the account: a couple of $1,000, melting away for rent and food. Her life, which was stable 6 months ago, with a home and husband, collapsed. She blamed Ava, but she knew that she made the choice. A night with Mark, substitutions, lies her decision. Now she was paying. Ava sat at her laptop, trying to respond to an email from a client. Freelance work articles for magazines has almost dried up. After dinner at Canley's, rumors spread. A guest who recognized her said that Ava and her sister were deceiving her husband. The reputation of a party girl and an unreliable writer took its toll. Editors stopped calling, clients found others. She sent the letter, but knew the answer. Thank you, we'll think about it. Ava, they'll think. Damn hypocrites. She slammed her laptop, stood up, and poured whiskey from a bottle in the kitchen. The loft, once a refuge, has become a cage. Emma sleeping on the cot was a reminder of failure. Ava blamed her sister for being careless, for ruining their game. But at night, alone, she admitted, she pulled Emma in, pushed her to the edge. Their connection, their secret, was their strength. But now it is a curse. Evening, bar on Capitol Hill. David and Leela were sitting in the corner of the bar, where jazz music was playing. On the table are 2 glasses of red wine and a plate of olives. Leela was talking about a trip to Portland, about a gallery with strange sculptures made from scrap metal. David listened and laughed, feeling light for the first time in months. Leela, seriously, one sculpture looked like your condominium, only made of rusty pipes. David, maybe this is my future. Rusty condominium. Investors will be delighted. Leela, they are already delighted. Did you see the article in the Seattle Times? Your project is called The Future of the City. David saw, but without your eco-miracles, it would be just another skyscraper. Leela, so you recognize my genius? I'll write this down. David, for your genius, and for not letting me drown. Leela clinked glasses with him, her eyes sparkling in the twilight. We talked for another hour about work, life, about what will happen next. David felt the past Emma, Ava, the pain recede, becoming a shadow. Leela was here, real, warm, and with her he saw the future. Not tomorrow, not in a year, but for the first time in a long time there is light ahead. David's apartment on the top floor of his South Lake Union condominium was sparklingly new. Picture windows overlooked Puget Sound, where the sunset painted the water gold. Dark oak floors, white walls with Leela's watercolors, a leather sofa, and a glass table, everything exuded the minimalism that she brought. There was a bottle of Cabernet and 2 glasses on the kitchen island, next to a box of pizza, still warm. David and Leela moved here a week ago, their things in boxes, but the apartment already felt like home. The condominium opened to great fanfare in early September. The Seattle Times and Puget Sound Business Journal were full of headlines. Carter is changing the face of Seattle, the city's eco-future. Investors lined up, David signed contracts for new projects. But today he wasn't thinking about work. Today was a special evening. Leela entered the living room, wearing jeans and a white shirt, her hair down. She was carrying sketches for a project in Portland, but David stopped her with a gesture. He stood by the window, wearing a dark shirt, holding a small velvet box in his hand. The face was calm, but the eyes betrayed excitement. David, Leela, you are my home. Marry me. Leela, yes, David, forever. The sketches fell out of her hands, scattering across the floor. The eyes widened, then shone, a smile lit up the face. David opened the box, revealing a ring simple, with a small diamond, chosen to suit her taste. Leela stepped towards him, took his face in her hands, kissed him, laughing and crying. He placed the ring on her finger, their hands intertwined. They stood by the window, looking out over the bay, where the lights of the city were reflected in the water. Leela, you're always so unexpected. I thought we'd just eat pizza. David, pizza is here to stay. I couldn't wait. You are my everything, Leela. Leela, and you are mine. But a warning, if the wedding is at your condominium, I will add heated benches. David agreed, but no rusty pipes like in your Portland gallery. They laughed and went back to the wine and pizza. The conversation turned to plans. A wedding, maybe in the spring, on Lake Washington, a project in Portland, Leela's dreams of a design studio. David felt a warmth he had never known with Emma, honest, without lies. Leela was his partner, his light, and with her he built not only buildings, but also life. Emma sat at the reception desk of a law firm on 2nd Avenue, answering the phone. The black skirt and white blouse, the secretary's uniform, no longer seemed uncomfortable, but the work was dull. I typed letters, sorted mail, smiled at clients, but inside there was emptiness. At lunchtime, I was scrolling through my phone and came across an article in the Seattle Times about David's condominium. The photo of him and Leela at the opening, he in a suit, she in a green dress, both smiling, cut to the heart. A stab of regret, sharp as a knife. I lost him, all because of weakness, because of a game that I didn't stop. Emma, you did it, David. She turned off the phone and returned to work. Life is a cot in Ava's loft, an account with a dwindling balance, a loneliness that she herself chose. Ava hardly spoke, meetings ended in silence or quarrels. Emma knew she needed to move on, but didn't know how. David found a way, she remained in the shadow of mistakes. Ava was sitting on the couch, leafing through a magazine she had once written. The laptop was collecting dust, there were almost no orders left. Rumors after Canley's destroyed the reputation. The guest said that Ava and her sister were deceiving her husband. Editors avoided me, friends didn't invite me to parties. I opened Instagram and came across a post about a condominium. Photo of David and Leela, their smiles, headline, Seattle's future. The burning sensation in the chest is not envy, it is regret. She pushed Emma to make changes, thinking that this would bring her sister's life back. Both lost everything. Ava, well, okay, live your fairy tale, David. She dropped the phone and poured some whiskey. The loft, once a refuge, has become a cage. Emma sleeping on the cot was a reminder of failure. Ava blamed her sister for her carelessness, but at night she admitted. She pulled Emma in, pushed her to the edge. Their connection, their secret, was their strength. Now it is a curse. David and Leela were sitting on the sofa, glasses of wine in their hands. Puget Bay shimmered with lights. The city was alive. We discussed the wedding and laughed at Leela's idea of adding eco-miracles. David looked at her, at the ring glittering on her finger, and felt that he was breathing freely. Leela, where to celebrate? Lake, or your condominium? David, lake. I want it to be ours, not work. But heated benches are your zone. Leela, agreed. Now honestly, are you ready for this? To us. David, ready. You are my home, Leela. The rest is details. She pressed herself against him. The warmth was real. The past Emma, Ava, the lies became an echo. David knew there was a lot of work and life ahead, but with Leela he was ready. They clinked glasses and laughter filled the apartment, drowning out the noise of the city. Seattle, April 2024. Cafe local color. The spring rain lightly hit the glass windows and flowed down in transparent paths, blurring the reflections of Belltown's neon signs. It was warm inside and smelled of cinnamon-baked goods, the combo of the day, according to the chalkboard above the bar. At the same corner table where it all began, two women were sitting, similar, but no longer the same. Emma, she was the first to bring a cup of green tea to her lips. Her blonde, shoulder-length hair was platinum just 6 months ago. She decided on a radical bob and lightning. The right wrist was decorated with a thin chain with an arrow pendant. Just above, on the skin, the outline of a small tattoo could be discerned, a tiny cedar, a symbol of the home that she had lost and let go. Ava, she leafed through the menu, pushing her heavy dark brown strands behind her ear. When she dyed her hair from reddish-brown to an almost natural brown hair, like her mother's in her 20s, her friends decided that a miracle had happened. On the nails, transparent glossy varnish. T-shirts with loud prints gave way to a simple black turtleneck under a light jacket, a gift from her new boyfriend, photographer Joel. Only the silver tracker ring on her thumb hinted that old Ava sometimes peeked out. The sisters were silent for a second or two, listening to the rain and to themselves. This was their third meeting in recent months, calm, without hysterics, and therefore already a small miracle. How are you? Emma was the first to break the silence. Her voice became deeper. The vocal courses she attended on Fridays, purely for the soul, taught her to breathe lower. Honestly, Ava shrugged. I'm learning to get up at 7 in the morning without an alarm clock. Joel is photographing sunrises over Puget, and now I'm trailing behind him with a thermos. I never thought that dawn could be pink. She grinned and took a sip of her latte. Pink in Seattle? Emma rolled her eyes theatrically. Probably Photoshop. I suspected you'd say that. Ava poked her sister with her elbow. And you? How do you like life without endless claims and receiving calls? Working as a secretary is already a thing of the past. Emma put her cup down, a smile on her face as someone who was finally happy to share good news. I completed an online financial planning course and submitted documents for CFP certification. Imagine, clients of a law firm themselves asked me to manage their personal budgets. Shy, come on. Ava leaned back in her chair, using an old family nickname. First blonde, then tattoo, now also a financial guru. Let me guess, is there an update in your personal life? Emma turned noticeably pinker, the blush suited her. Okay, Ava raised her hands. Tell me. Remember Elliot from the IT department? The one who was terribly embarrassed to say hello? Emma twirled a platinum lock of hair around her finger. Together, we installed a new server for the accounting department. It turned out that he is a master of board games and can cook ramen better than any restaurant in Chinatown. Wait, this is the one with the collection of miniatures Warhammer. It's him. Now on Saturdays we paint orcs, and on Sundays we go to Volunteer Park to feed the carp. If even one carp learns to roll D20 dice, call me, Ava chuckled, but her eyes shone with approval. Seriously, I'm glad. There was a pause, this time short and warm. There was something to think about. You know, Emma said, returning her gaze to the rainy street, I sometimes still see David on the news. She and Leela built a branch of the library on the embankment. It turned out beautifully. I saw the photo. Ava nodded. Doesn't it hurt? At first it hurt. And now, it's like a movie I once loved and watched too many times. You know every turn, but you don't cry anymore. Good metaphor. Ava touched the arrow pendant on Emma's wrist. I don't run around clubs until the morning either. The magazine hired me part-time as a freelance editor, but I'm already writing about urban gardens and plastic-free coffee shops. Seriously, Emma straightened her shoulders. Just yesterday, you called zero waste a satanic ritual. Yesterday, that was 3 years ago, Ava snorted. I hardly drink whiskey anymore. Joel does such photo sets of sunrises that I prefer coffee with oat milk and a long lens. Emma laughed quietly but sincerely. You've changed, Ava, but you still remain an adventurer. An adventurer who learns to keep her eye in one copy, the sister answered softly. The radio was playing in the background, soft soul jazz. The cafe gradually filled up. A man with a skateboard ordered a cappuccino at the bar. Behind the window, a girl with a laptop was typing a code, biting a carrot cake. Do you remember, Emma began quietly, how in childhood my mother said, each of you has your own planet. But we didn't believe it. Ava shook her leg. We thought that if we were twins, then we would have the same orbit. Sometimes I miss that lightness, Emma admitted, when it was possible to take your diary to copy a poem. But then I think, if we continued to confuse our orbits, we would burn up like comets. We almost got burned, Ava said seriously. And since then I have a rule, no double role. I'm alone and that's enough. Emma nodded, feeling the weight of what she had just said in a new way. Do you know how I first realized that I had to leave the past behind? Ava looked around the cafe. I came here 6 months ago, and the barista asked, Sisters, latte with soy and double espresso again. And I suddenly heard a question, which of us is which? Emma smiled at the corner of her mouth. And I understood it during vocal courses. The teacher said, don't copy someone else's style of singing, find your own resonator. I sang and thought that all my life I had been trying to sound in unison with you. But everyone has their own timbre, Ava said. Otherwise, the chorus is out of tune. And suddenly, they both laughed. The comparison turned out to be accurate and funny. People at the neighboring tables turned their heads, but the sisters were not embarrassed. Joel wanted to come, Ava leaned forward, but there's a swell of clouds at Alki Beach today. He's hunting for a rare rainbow. Rainbow in Seattle? Emma raised an eyebrow. Let me know when you catch it. If he catches it, we'll make an exhibition, and you'll make an estimate. Deal. Emma extended her palm, Ava slapped it, as if she were 15 years old after a successful trick. How's Elliot? Ava asked, sipping her latte. Isn't he jealous of my rollicking past? He grew up among desert orcs. Emma grinned. He needs strategy, not drama. We agreed. No secret, no double life. I say what I feel, even if it's I'm tired or I miss the vampire parties I never had. Vampires and orcs are an interesting mix. It's called family, Emma answered seriously. Small, strange, but mine. Ava smiled softly, without envy. What once tore them apart with jealousy and a sense of injustice has now become a reason for mutual pride. The waitress brought the bill, 2 spoons, and a piece of chocolate to take home. The sisters looked at each other. Before, they would have argued about who was paying or risked running away, leaving a tip in the hourglass for sugar. Today, Emma put the card on the tray. Ava threw cash in for the tip. By the way, Emma took out a small envelope from her bag. This is for you. Ava frowned and opened the corner. Inside is an invitation with a watercolor drawing of Coy and the phrase, Emma plus Elliot, August, Volunteer Park. You, Ava raised her eyes in surprise. Yes, Emma touched the arrow pendant. He proposed near the carp pond. The ring has the engraving, no second take. Ava read the invitation one more time, as if checking to see if it was really a joke. A thin smile crossed her lips. I'll come, she said quietly, and I'll write you a wedding toast without a single mention of orcs. I promise. Emma laughed with relief. And you? She asked. Does Joel have his own plans? Eat. Ava twirled the tracker ring on her finger. Tour of national parks. I want to shoot a time-lapse of the starry sky without light pollution. I'm used to neon, but I'm thinking of giving it a try. And your article about zero-waste cafes. The deadline is in 3 days. I can do it on the laptop in the camper. She winked. True, I also wanted to give you something. From her bag, Ava took out a small box tied with a green ribbon. Emma raised an eyebrow and untied the bow. Inside were 2 silver crescent moon pendants. Each is half of a whole circle, like a coin cut in half. One is engraved with S, the other with N. South and north. Emma touched the engraving. Separate and not alone, Ava corrected. Separated, but not alone. Once we wanted to be one person, but now, each remains itself. I thought, let this circle not close again. Emma smiled through the moisture in her eyes. You've become terribly sentimental without whiskey. And you are a daring blonde with tattoos and plans for the future. The world has turned upside down. They put on the pendants at the same time. The crescents lay on the collarbones. The coldness of the silver gradually warmed up from the skin. When we left the cafe, the rain had almost died down, leaving behind wet asphalt and air that smelled of the sea. Dots of light reflected in the puddles like tiny comets. Ava opened her umbrella bright yellow, as if cut out of the past. Emma laughed. So that's where my umbrella from 5 years ago went. Consider it borrowed forever. But today he is yours. Ava extended her pen. They walked side by side, holding one handle. People walked around them. Some smiled, seeing 2 similar girls with one umbrella. You know, Emma said, sometimes I'm scared. What if I lose control again? What if I try to become someone else again, to please or to escape? Fear is useful, Ava answered. He reminds us that rules are needed. Our main rule is one front, one life. It can no longer be violated. Agreement? Emma stopped and held out her palm. Agreement, Ava hit her sister's palm. And one more thing. Never take the scent of each other's perfume without asking. Agree, Emma laughed. And now, Ava breathed in air full of salt and wet maple. Let's go to the embankment. I'll show you the place where Joel caught the pink sunrise. Maybe today he will give us a pink sunset. Perfect. And then to me, I'll make ramen, and you'll see that Elliot wasn't kidding about the recipe. Baby, after your soy lasagna, I'll believe anything. Both burst into laughter, mixing laughter with the noise of rare drops. They walked towards the bay, towards the light of the lighthouse, towards the neon and the horizon. The two halves of the circle are now separate, but not alone. Each has its own umbrella, its own sunrise, and its own rules. And most importantly, everyone has their own life. But in this life, there will always be a place for the one with whom it all began, who was once your mirror, but has become the most reliable witness of change. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.